Alrighty, hello, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to another edition of our King's Corner podcast. Happy weekend to everyone. Let me say what's up to the chat first, because for those who don't know, as soon as we start getting going on these things, it's really hard to kind of keep into chat. I will pretty much chat through text with you guys on there, but it is definitely a little bit hard. Bullet Blazer, welcome to the stream. Hunky, what's up, man? Welcome. Ray, who I'm obviously joined by and with. Skinsy, what's up, man? Good morning. How you doing, my friend? And Hunky to sleep soon. I actually did not share this onto my Discord, so Bullet, can you maybe do an announcement for me if you're still there? Because I had it all set up, and then I don't want to lose the thingies that I have set, because as soon as I mess with my Discord, it's because, as you can see, as soon as I go over certain things, it'll mess with it. So if you're there, Bullet, can you make an announcement for me? I'm live. So yes, today, third episode of King's Corner podcast. We are going to be joined by 2576, very good friends of 2581. We fought a very rigorous KVK 2 together. Ray obviously is a massive supporter of the channel, and we are joined also by council member Plague, or El Plague, today. Had a lot of fun with Plague in KVK 2 as well, as he was one of the main R4s and war leads. So without further ado, what's up, gentlemen? How we doing?
What is up? Howdy. Hold on, Sharon.
Dan has his red tube mic on today. What does that mean? I don't get that.
Red tube is a porn site.
Oh, that Hunky.
Hunky to 76, start the trend.
Hunky, don't listen to him. Oh, nice. Thank you, Skinsy. So not really any kind of agenda today. I think I'll just kind of start it out the way that I usually do, little proper introductions. So Ray, Plague, how long have you guys been playing Rise of Kingdoms? Give us a little bit of your backstory on that, where you guys are in terms of placement in 2576, Council, Kings. I kind of have an idea already, but for the fans, let them know.
Yeah, I'll go. My backstory is a whole lot shorter than Plague, so I'll start. Right around a year and a half. I started out. I'm not a native in 76 per se, because my original account started in 73. Ooh. And it was taken over by an Asian jumper group, and they pushed us out, so we went to 75. There I met a couple of friends, and we left and went to 76. I think I was 3 days before KDK started, so I didn't have and to also add to that, I don't remember even scouting fog, if that makes any sense. I was never part of a jumper group. I never did any of that. We got into KVK 1, the odds were stacked. We didn't have any fighting at all at the beginning. So I really didn't experience any KVK 1, right? I was probably a 10 or 11 mil, who, just making friends or whatever. And then we went to KVK 2, that is where I met you. And, we had our heartbreaks, and we had our fort deletes for the second time. And we got put behind the 8 ball. And, it was a lot of fun. Left KVK 2, which hindsight's now, looking back at what I had spent on my account for resources and speed ups, were way more than a significant majority of the players, which they all ended up T5 before KVK 3. It took me right before KVK 4 to get T5. So I was handicapped. Went into KVK 3. That was not my favorite KVK because I didn't like the setup. I still don't like the setup. But for what it's worth, I mean, at least you get to pick your allies versus SOC, and that's so after KVK 3, really the middle of it is when I got brought into, or beginning of KVK 3 is when I got brought into council. From that point forward, I've been nothing but I would say like more of a strategy and diplomacy role.
You're a dictator now, essentially.
No, I'm not. I dictate on what not to do, right? But yeah, that's my history and that's my role. Is I'm a support role player in council, right? Like my activity speaks volumes, and that's where I'll leave it, and play can take up from there.
Let's see. I think I started playing at the tail end of 2019, the beginning of 2020. Not on the main account that I play on. This was right around COVID time. Popped up. Everybody's on lockdown, quarantined, whatever. So I remember we were laying on the couch watching YouTube, just listening to videos and just kind of passing the day by, and somehow an ad came across for this game. Started playing it, had no idea, didn't know anyone that played it, so I was without a doubt one of those new type players that just pushed buttons. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't understand there was a method to the madness. I was just like, oh, there's some troops sitting out, let's go attack them. What's the harm in that? Like I was probably in somebody's kingdom causing problems, even as a lower power guy. But after a while, I hooked up with some friends and started bouncing around, and finally decided to make an account and try to play the game a little bit more seriously. And so yeah, bounced around. Started around Kingdom 1961. Bounced to a couple other kingdoms with some friends, and this is back in the days when you could freely roam about. This was before the migration update. So yeah, it was a different game. It was a different game back then. In my opinion, it was a lot more fun. There was you had a lot more choices as a free to play and even a low spender. But yeah, so we wound up. Group of guys decided we wanted to try to run a kingdom. Nothing aggressive. We were just like, hey, let's try our hand at it and see what happens. And started in 2576, and met some cool people. Had some good KVKs. The second one with you guys was awesome. I mean, we didn't win, but at the same time, it was a blast. I mean, it was action packed. I think the deck was a little stacked against us, and that's not an excuse at all. But it's just like we had a tough hill to climb, but it was fun. It was great. I don't enjoy losing, but bang for your buck. It was all the action you wanted, as much as your wallet could handle, anyways. So, but after that, I've kind of always been in the council role. I'm not usually I'm not a tech savvy guy, so I'm more someone that relies on their a little bit of their experience and activity level. I rotate in and out of King because of my availability, but I'm not necessarily the most experienced or knowledgeable player. So I'm all good with so if someone else has got better ideas, and I'm open to all of that. Because there's especially now with the different KDK formats that they came out with and such, where you go like, look, I haven't played this format. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what we should or shouldn't be aiming for, like ally wise, strategy wise. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not got a crazy, interesting story. Met a lot of great people along the way, and they come and go, and you'd like for everybody to leave on good terms. And you never know. You hope maybe you hook back up with them later on. So that's the story.
Very nice. So definitely having a little bit more experience than Ray, the noob over here. I'm just kidding, teasing. I gotta say though, I like even now talking back on that KVK2, I didn't stream a lot of it because that was like the first stress test as like a leader in a kingdom, and I really wish I had streamed it and gotten some kind of content on it. Good morning, Jazzy. Because you got to think, we went into that first zone locked up in Imperium, or the 2561 was pretty much the strongest, I think, in the on the map at that point.
Technically, I think it was actually 74 because 61 come out of KVK 1 with a dogfight.
Oh,
so
okay.
technically, it was 74.
Okay. And I think 74 obviously had Luffy or Ace or whatever his name was at the time. But yeah, I mean, we go into that and then we lose the zone and then we retake the zone and then we go into zone 6 and then we're running for our lives and then we have, we're in zone 6 and we properly fort drop onto the pass finally. It was insane. I think, again, I definitely dropped the ball a little bit, but that was definitely if you put all the stress aside from all that bullshit that I had to deal with personally, and then obviously you guys got most of the brunt of that too, like you felt the residuals. Damn, man, if we could put all that aside, that was probably one of the best KVKs I've ever played, in terms of how much...
I have brought that up numerous amount of times, like why can't Lilith recreate that? Like, it doesn't, you think about it, right? Like, and this is, I was gonna say this after the fact, but you already got me ranting, is like, I think this King's Corner podcast is more of like what kingdoms face and kings in particular and council members face in today's ROK world, and it's just simply the fact that, like, when you ask a question, they can't answer it. They can't tell you how activities judge. They can't tell you any of that. And like, you ask the question about KVK2, like, how, I understand that you take the accounts that are the same age and you bracket them into a KVK, right? I understand that. But you can't tell me that you can't take the same amount of kingdoms and put them on a KVK map and remove the Diplo, right? Like, I made this point to you and I made it in VIP chat. Like, you can take, and the response was, well, we try to make the camps similar power. And I was like, yeah, but you can't tell me if the other kingdoms are going to fight or not. So instead of letting my kingdom fight for itself, you're grouping us into a group that may or may not even compete. Yeah. Where KVK2, like, we had an uphill battle. I mean, as far as at that point, I was R4NC, like, and I'll never forget that day too, because I knew I was going to be late to the pass opening because I was going in to find the gender of my second child. So like, I come out excited because we're having a boy, excited the whole 9 yards, log on, and our territory is fucking white. Right? Like if that's not a tone setter, it's like, so we were, that didn't help the fight against 63. But
who was that one kingdom that was just trash? They
89.
No. 89 was the...
Oh yeah, no. Don't talk about it. Don't bring it up.
On the right side of the map, like on that. Bro.
Please, God, don't. Please.
Oh my God.
We just allied with them again.
Oh no.
And they failed us. Denial. Yeah.
What kingdom is that, so we all know?
97.
2597? Yep. You heard it here first, guys. Avoid 2597 on.
So hold on. A little disclaimer: they are in a better spot now than when we allied with them. So here's the little bit of shitstorm that 97 got themselves in after KVK 3. So KVK 3, we allied with 63, which to nobody's fault in particular, but 76 had no reason being in that KVK. I think we talked about it a little bit. You were on hiatus, but it was, the diplomacy was, will you guys hold up? It's like, well, we had just zeroed ourselves endlessly against 61 and 63. We had no business being in the top Imperium fucking KVK 3. That's my opinion. So once we come out of that KVK, 63 force migrated all the WP Alliance. And they wanted to come to 76. We said no because of the amount of power they were bringing. Well, 97 took them in. So 97 took them in, had a KVK where, and this is, I don't understand how, but they ended up not winning but doing all right. We in by all right, I mean, like, they almost tripled their KP, and their kill to death ratio was awesome. Well, fast forward to Nile, we teamed up with 1882. 1882 built the team. Awesome kingdom, awesome people to work with, awesome. And halfway through that KVK, we find out that the WP Alliance bought a kingdom and migrated out.
Oh shit.
Or were going to migrate out, so they weren't fighting. So now we were almost handicapped because our second biggest kingdom, or it might have been the biggest at that point, was about to migrate out a whole alliance of people, right? And they basically left the day after King's Land, the day before King's Land, and like, you could see that 97 was drained because their fighters had fought and that whole alliance left. I think I had it in writing somewhere. So yeah, they're in a better place now than they were, but they got a little bit of rebuilding. Their king, CJ the Great, or whatever it is, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, I recognize that name as I'm looking at their alliance, and I remember talking to CJ, and he was one of the ones with like kind of like a cooler head on his shoulders, and he was like, yo, like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna fight, we're gonna do. But I think it was more or less the team that was around him that was kind of, shitting the bed. And there was one guy in particular too who's like, he was, I don't think you were in that Diplo chat at the time, right? I'm not sure, but this dude was going off, and like, he was like saying how like, oh, they put in so much work against 63 and this and that, and oh, like, my guys are drained and blah, and we're like, dude, you haven't even fought yet. Like, we've been fighting like this entire KVK, and we're just asking for a little bit of support. Like, we like, take some pressure off of us, because 63 is, bending us over, and we have 61 and 74 slowly starting to come into this zone too. Like, we can't do anything.
Oh, so that was the thing too. Like, we again, I can remember the map because we built in a way where you and another 76 kingdom fort dropped inside of this box that NC had built, right? Like, we had built a box that we could defend, and you fort dropped, and you guys actually started to take the fight to 61 by holding the path for hours. We pushed 63 out of the zone, and we asked 97 to do something. 89 come for support, and like, they just couldn't do it. They in part of that was 63's battle plan was awesome, and they ended up getting Soul and Deadwood ended up getting half of the kingdom zeroed because 63 cut them, is what ended up happening.
I don't even think it was that. I think in the early part of that KVK, they deleted something incorrectly.
97 did. Oh,
if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
that's what happened early,
yes,
like right out the gate. So it was like everything from 76's standpoint. I remember thinking like everything that can go wrong is going wrong. Like I just remember once in a blue moon, I would get a message from I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right, but Magua or whatever out of 61.
Yeah.
And he was such he's such a good player, and he's highly active. You look at his stats and tell he's a freaking axe murderer on the battlefield. But he would send me something from time to time, and I remember when you guys 81 had their little civil dispute.
Yeah.
And they drop a fort and all, and I remember him messaging me and us going back and forth, and I'm like, you gotta be shitting me, dude. Like it's like we just fought you guys and we've been fighting 63. We're not making headway against 63. We're trying to get ready for zone 6, and this falls out to where us for sure 81 was involved as well, but it's like 76 we were like we're getting tapped. Like we had an extra, like I don't know how many days it was where we were wasting resources, speed ups, troops, the whole shebang, just because of that dispute where they were allowed to drop forts and be protected. And it doesn't seem like much, but it's like you're supposed to be kind of recovering as quickly as possible, getting ready for the next zone. We spent I don't know how many days burning them out and fighting them and some of the strongest players, and it was just draining. I mean, again, it was going to be an uphill battle no matter what, but it was like that definitely didn't help. You know, there was no, you know, we're supposed to be farming and trying to gear up, but it couldn't happen. I remember. Go ahead.
That was like the thing too, where like, yo, let's lock these guys in. We'll have some time to chill out, recover, and do what we need to do. And then shitty allies all around for 76. You guys are probably shaking your heads like, what the fuck, man?
Well, it was wild. It was wild too, though, because like on the 63 side, they were like, I didn't know anything about them. I don't do a ton of research into these kingdoms, sadly, I'll admit that. But they were crazy active. Like,
they were,
ants all over the field. But it was what I kept looking up mid-war. I'm looking up, and I'm not getting too heated, but I'm going, are they ever going to build up here and help, or are they just going to keep blocking all those passes down by zone 6?
Yeah.
Because we were like, the whole point of us attacking the same kingdom is we're supposed to kind of the same way we did with you guys, where it's like, let's pinch them and let's push them back. And I'm watching and I'm going, well, there's another flag out in the middle of nowhere and another flag out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm going, if you guys would just drop a fort somewhere up here, we might get some business done. I mean, we had some solid players. We had some really, really good garrison guys that had the archer stuff. They had the infantry. They had everything they needed, but we were just getting worn down, and 63, to their credit, they never stopped. There was no downtime. But yeah, I just kept looking over, going, I wasn't in the Diplo. I wasn't able. I was like, I'm available, but I can't dedicate the time. I got a promotion at the time, so my time was cut. But in the chats and in our private chats, I'm not bashing them as much as I'm just going, was this part of the plan? Like, is there a reason they're not coming over here and helping? Because if they did, I think we might push them back. But and then I think about the time they finally tried to build something, I can't remember what it was, but something happened, and then they just got like overrun. 63 just like hit them with a tidal wave, and then that was the end of it. It was all over.
Yeah, and then I think it was in that zone 4 too, where they had finally done something in established territory, and I think you're right. I think they built a fort kind of by the passes, right, to kind of start to block off and set themselves up to enter zone 6.
That's the first thing they did, to my recollection. Because as I said, I kept watching. I was on the other side. I was on 61 side, but I'm watching the map, and yeah, I mean they marched right out to the zone 6 passes, and I'm just thinking, why? What's the rush? Where are you going? Like we got to get rid of them, man. You know, even 61, like even what 61 did, whether they meant to do it or whether it was a conscious effort or whatever, it threw us for a loop from our kingdom standpoint because they went right at you guys. I'm not saying they feared us. I'm just saying that's what they did. Well, we put our two strongest shells on that side.
Yeah.
And so, we had to march 20, 30 minutes to get to the fighting. So yeah, it was, you know, there was a lot of stuff where, I mean, we weren't sure, you know, what they were going to do, but our intentions was to fire out at them and meet them head on. And they went at you guys. So there was a lot of stuff where we were like, okay, well, I guess, you know, anybody that's ready to fight, either start marching or join the other side. But it was, either way, it was still fun.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to the point too, which I think we were going to segue into this a little bit. I know it's definitely on Ray's mind, but like, and I guess yours as well, because I know you guys were kind of excited to get on for this bit. But like, yeah, like just give us fights like that, like back in the day. Like it's almost like, you know, like I migrated back to KVK2, and it's like, you know, I didn't really like it, but at this point now, with like some of the level of the fighting that you're getting, because you don't know how matchmaking is, it's totally random. You don't know who you're going to be getting matched up against. I mean, we have a 7 billion power difference in the KVK that I'm going into right now, and I don't even want to talk about the kill point difference too. It's nuts. So it's almost like you kind of do want to just go back to KVK2 because you're almost kind of guaranteed to get some kind of like decent fights, and you could just kind of create some chaos within the map too, because you probably aren't going to see those kingdoms for a pretty long time anyway. You know, I'm actually going to be playing in a KVK2. I believe Pilot Dan will be coming back out, but in 3075. So we'll see how that turns out. They're actually the top kingdom in their bracket, so we'll see if they get some easy fights or hard fights and kind of compare and contrast the two. But yeah, I mean, the state of the matchmaking in Lilith is not good. And I know Chiz dropped the video on it. Ray, you shared it with me. I don't know if you had any thoughts on it. We kind of talked on it a little bit, but like not on voice, obviously.
I'll let Play go first. I mean, he's got similar views, and then I'll throw mine in.
Okay.
I think the matchmaking is seriously flawed. I think the fact that we were discussing this in private, but it's like when you're looking for something in a fair competition, whether it's sports or whatever, there's some type of requirement or some type of, you know, combat sports. There's weight classes and things of that nature. And the fact, and I actually commented on the video and of Chisholm's video and all, but I mean, it doesn't mean anything. I'm a nobody. But my point was that, as Ray alluded to earlier, if they can't or won't explain to you how matchmaking works, that is telling in and of itself. And that's a problem. And again, multiple people have asked, and they want to ask, they want to bring up activity. Well, I don't even know how you measure activity. Like what do you, as the developers, how do you measure that? Do you know, are you just basing it on how many resources we've gathered? Are you basing it on how much we spend? Because I don't see how you can monitor barb forts, etc. And even then, that type of activity is not indicative of a kingdom's fighting ability. And I think so. If the matchmaking is flawed, it just gets amplified when you start throwing 6, 8, 10 kingdoms into a KDK. Because now, I mean, and this is what I kind of think is happening. I think they put some effort into it, but after the easy, you know, oh, we're matching this Imperium, okay. After that, they're just rolling the dice. Is what I think.
Yeah,
they're just like, hey, look, there you go. Because I agreed with Chisholm's point. I believe as well. I think all the kingdoms should go into KVK at the same time to draw the largest pool possible, so that you don't have any excuses for, oh well, you know, we didn't have, we had X amount skip or as they say, dodging opponents. Well, if you've got the entire pool to choose from, that excuse is then eliminated. But I think but as Ray said, the fact that some of these KDKs, and it's always been this way, but it's worse now. You're so dependent upon your ally, and those are factors that are completely out of your control. Do I think we as 76 deserved to win our last SOC doing the Nile? Not necessarily deserved, but I thought we did very, very well. Everyone in the kingdom, pretty much, even though we didn't win, it was we didn't have any miscommunication with our allies. We didn't have any screw ups to where we missed an opportunity to capture this or burn that, or we just flat out got overwhelmed because it appeared we were outmatched. And then you add in the fact that apparently the way power works, scan works, etc., people are saying we weren't even supposed to be there. We were supposed to be in a lower seeded KVK. Now, I don't know how all that works and I'm not going to pretend to know because I don't think Lilith knows. But that I think there's a massive psychological and morale issue going on with SOC players and players that have played as long as we have, to where you're starting to question how much time and effort and money do I sink into this when there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason as to what's happening.
I think it's owed to us at the very least on those points of obviously money is one, but time too. Like look, a lot of us can be playing other different games, or like kind of like Bunny quit. He's I'm going to fucking travel, I'm gonna go race my fucking cars, I'm gonna go do all the shit that has kind of taken me away from it because of the time aspect. At the very least, give us the transparency of, hey, this is how it works, it's on these factors, right? And this is how you should go. I think this is another key thing for them to say too, that they should owe it to the leadership as well, because we put in more time than anybody in this game. Hey, here's how you should approach matchmaking if you want to get XYZ fight or something like that. At least give us some more transparency for the amount of time and planning and preparation that a lot of us leads are putting in to give our kingdoms, which is 155 players for one alliance plus 300 players, Imperiums, almost getting up to thousands of players, actual people, to give them a good experience. Like, we're doing that for Lilith, right? I feel like that's the least that they can do.
Yeah. So here's my thing too, and Europe's in the chat. He probably may or may not agree with this point, but to me, the reason you continuously see the power drop in seeding is because of players quitting. I think I've never sat down to do the numbers, and I probably should. I should sit down and do the numbers and see how many kingdoms they can consider C seed, because they're doing 34 kingdoms at the end of every KVK 3 enter SOC. So that's your pool should be getting bigger, but it seems like it's getting smaller. And I think that if you did the math, there's not less C seeds today. They're just less power because there's so many people quitting the game. Or in the argument can be made, you hear people say all the time, like, well, they're going to A seeds, they're going to Imperiums. It's like more and more of these A seeds and Imperiums are breaking up because they want a fair gaming experience and they're not getting it. And I think that they continue to fuck with this system in a way that makes it so that they're trying to balance it so everybody gets a KVK win, right? Like that little last piece of information that Plague sent to me and I sent to you that says victories and wins and defeats, right? Or however it was worded. Like, they're simply saying that if you get your ass handed to you in KVK, we're going to give you an easier one next time. So you're not saying it, but you did say you're manipulating the system to benefit kingdoms that take recovery KVKs. And this is something that I said too, like, is there a reason that you always see Asian kingdoms take a recovery KVK? And is it because they know that if they go out there and get nothing and duds, that next KVK they'll get an easier one? It's a wild concept, but I think it's a real one.
I think that I think the issue, like many things in life and within this game, it's a very multi-layered problem with the fact that kingdoms are dying at a rapid rate, and I think the reason is you just have people that aren't as interested in the game. All these accounts exist, but there's fewer people playing. You know, like people can say whatever. There's accounts being shared, swapped, sold, whatever. But there's fewer people playing them, and that's why, like, I remember when you know, you could be in a CC kingdom and it was still relatively active. But now, if you're in a CC kingdom, you're not far off from what
the D's were dead.
Yeah,
dead kingdoms.
That margin is slim. And for me, anyone that's talked to me privately it probably knows what I'm about to say, and and they're gonna be like, playing a broken record. I honestly believe it, and I'll keep shouting it. This game slowly started dying the minute they did the migration update, because every free-to-play player and low spender had a light at the end of the tunnel. If Dirty Dan is beating the piss out of me and my friends in the field, well, guess what? I can migrate back, and I can build my account. Not necessarily how I'm gonna go bully, but like if you're a free to play or low spender, that was just migration was part of what you did. I knew people that did everything they could not to play SOC. They wanted no part of Crystal Tech. They were highly active players, very good stats, the whole 9 yards. But they didn't like pretty much being forced to buy Crystal Tech. Well, they yanked that away, and on top of yanking that away, you can then take it step further to what they're doing, as to why stuff is not interesting. Or I mean, I don't know about you, Dan, but I knew people that made jumpers religiously because hey, it was just something to do. Let's have a little fun. Or hey, I'm gonna make a jumper and gonna attempt to lead a kingdom, or if I have a new kingdom to migrate back to. This game has become so repetitive and redundant that there's no interest to do it. You know, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think it's a portion of that, and it's a portion of like they're also nerfing you know, some of the key things to keep the vast majority of their player base you know, active in the game, which is the free to plays. And I think that's why you can see the seeds being affected the way that they are, because population is such a huge thing within this game. And thank you, Lambo, for the $5 super chat. No shots this morning, but I appreciate it. Too early for shots. But like, yeah, I think that's a great point, is when you took that away from people, and look, they were going back to KVK2, KVK3 anyway, but they were probably still playing a few SOCs, which kind of kept the population healthy-ish to an extent. I think there's so many of them now, and especially with them nerfing jumpers, like jumpers are now nerfed. You can't get nearly as many goodies when starting an account. I think that also hurt them, because I mean, there was a lot of strategy and planning that goes into a jumper, and I'll never do a jumper again.
I heard Dirty Dan was starting a jumper group after this.
I'll never do a jumper ever again, but I got to tell you, it was pretty fun starting a new account, doing the jumper process. Like, there was a lot of things that you had to do to like really give yourself that nice boost and that edge to those who just didn't know what a jumper was. Like, you start into this new kingdom and you're already like almost 200k power with all these native players who are starting off, and you have a bag loaded, ready to pump power up to like 1 million, like almost instantly. You know, like that's really fun. That's a huge like plot. I love watching Plotto when he was doing his Call of Dragons. And he kept talking about like the dopamine hits that you would get when you're starting a new city builder like that. Like you're getting crazy dopamine hits, especially if you're a free-to-play player, because you're just like, yo, I'm so strong right now compared to all these other guys who are just starting their accounts. They're taking so much of that fun away from the free-to-play community. Very much like you said, they got rid of the migration, or very, very strictly limited the migration. And I think it left this void for a lot of free-to-play players to not have a area that was a form of recovery KVK in itself. Like if you needed a break from SOC, just migrate back to KVK 2. You have now almost 6 to 8 months that you can kind of chill out a little bit, and then you kind of get back into the fix of SOC and seedings and true matchmaking and all that stuff. Now, you know, so I think that's a great point that you brought up about the limiting of the migration. I think at first I really liked it because I think it does balance it a little bit for the native players, but you know, those native players eventually get to SOC and they're going to need a place to escape to when they don't feel like getting pounded in Season of Conquest over and over again. And then when it comes to the variety as well, you know, I do think we lost Plague. I do think that, yeah, I mean, there needs to be a little bit more variety. Like we just got Siege of Orleans and Warriors Unbound, but there needs to be a little bit more within this game. And I've mentioned it before too. They need a big splash, whether that's with Osiris League, like, you know, give us a very immersive Osiris League type setup where anyone can perform like a top team. Champions of Olympia, even new arc maps. Like there's so much they can do, but to at least keep some things fresh within the game, but they keep missing the mark. So I think you made a lot of great points on that last bit.
Well, a small segue to that is when you add on, my audio was cutting in and out a little bit there, but I heard most of what you said. But now you sit there and think like, probably, I'm assuming you probably played about as long as me or before. I remember when SOC Commanders were the quote, like they were day 300 Commanders. And you could use them in KVK 3 back in the day. That you're the oldest kingdom in KVK 3. When it hit 300 days, it would unlock the commanders, but you couldn't obtain them. But if you had them, you could use. And the fact that they have now went back to that after everything that they've done, all the changes that they've made, they did boost the migration a little bit, but I don't see how that is supposed to a low spender, and especially a free-to-play player. Imagine starting an account, and let's say Dirty Dan's made a jumper, and you're a free-to-play guy, and Dirty Dan's going to be your mentor. Imagine starting a game and then being told, hey, Ray, don't use a single gold head or gem on anything. Just hang out. Just hang out with me for like 6 months, and then when KDK 3 rolls around, you'll be able to unlock XYZ commanders. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying again about I don't see because the people that are committed, if not addicted to the game, they're gonna be that.
Yeah.
But it's the other people. You're not getting or keeping the other people interested with what you're doing, and pushing SOC Commanders up to KVK 3. And this is my rant that people have heard. Like Charlemagne was already a trash command. Why are you giving him away at KVK 1 when he was already trash? So Wu's Ateon had one moment to shine, and that was KVK 3 as a garrison. Well, not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. So it now, were those game-changing commanders? No, but what I'm saying is the shit you're doing is it literally contradicts how the mechanics and the system is set up. You have commanders. I've told Ray, like, They should buff all the epic commanders. Why? To make it more exciting. Because the minute you get legendaries, they're kicked to the side anyways, for the most part.
Yeah.
And there's very few. The wash, rinse, repeat that I talked about. Every video you watch, every content creator, every play. Hey, Max Sun Tzu right out the gate. That's the guy. Then why do you even have the others? If that's the answer, then why do I even have the other guys that no one ever uses? Or the minute you get a 5-1-1-1 so-and-so, he does. That's what I'm saying. They have stuff that exists for no reason. And they could take baby steps and fix some of this.
Yeah.
They could buff the epic commanders. They could raise the drop rates on gold key commanders. Why? Because right now, let alone if you start a new account under this new thing of, hey, SOC Commanders and KDK3, but even starting before that, everyone told you, don't put any gold heads in that commander. So why work on them? Why have them? Why look at them? I mean, they're there. I'm not saying it annoys me. I'm simply saying though, that's like, if I'm being told by everyone else, ignore this, how much of the game am I ignoring? And how much in the present timeline am I enjoying?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking 2, 3, 4 months down the road. And that's the point. That's the point. It's how much do I got to sacrifice, and how committed do I got to be to this, to kind of turn a blind eye to all the stuff I don't like, and then hopefully, I'm going to go into KVK3 and I'll get CPO or whatever. Yeah. And then anyone that spent money or migrated back is still going to kick my teeth in. So what did I just do? What did I just hang out in this kingdom for? And I think these are legitimate. I'm not saying people say it out loud, but I think that's the feeling. There's people just like, I'm not doing that. What's the point? And again, my rant towards Lilith is, there are baby steps that they can do to pick up the pacing of the game.
Yeah. I've made the point too that like they take too long to do stuff as well. Like like you said, I think that's perfect. Like baby steps, just small incremental things. I feel like, okay, so I might contradict myself a little bit here. We're saying like they need a big splash. I think they can do both. I think they can do baby steps to incrementally fix the game, right? Matchmaking, making it more friendly for newer players, keeping those newer players around long enough to keep the population pool and SOC available for us players who are still playing without having the drop off. Kenny, I mean, like, they're too slow. Whenever they make an announcement on something, we're still waiting on armament rerolls. We're still waiting on museum commanders. We're still waiting on this next civilization, which as Bodian had posted when they did the LA meetup. We're still waiting on this civilization. Donkey Kong, also welcome to the chat. I believe that's another 2576 council member. The sea battles that we were promised, and we got this boat game as like kind of like a teaser. And
trash.
Yeah, no, don't say that.
I think it was like a more or less like a test to see like, hey, are we capable of doing sea battles and stuff like that? And that was like a huge thing that they were kind of like teasing to the community, and that was like a year and a half ago. Like they're so slow to release things or to even catch on to things that are needed within their game, because I think, for one, they don't listen to their community. I really don't believe that they listen to their community all that much.
Sorry, Lambo's right on that. But
I think the boat game was a little bit of a tester for the range formation. I think that's what I feel. I think they threw that out there just to see, like, what do people think of this?
I'm glad you brought that up, Plague, because and they've been dragging their feet with this too, because this is another thing that they had talked about and they'd hinted at doing, is making the formations have purposes, right? Like, they had tested it before and they were making it so that the hollow square formation was used in roadblocks and blockers, and your wedge formation, you couldn't pass through a hollow square formation and all this other stuff. Like, there's all these testers and stuff that they had been doing, but yet they haven't done any of it. Same with like the Alliance mobilization. Like, by what means do we have any business being in the same fucking Alliance mobilization as 960, 1175, 1093, and I can't remember 1302, right? Like, we had zero business there. And what put us there? They can't tell you why we're there. They can't tell you how we got grouped in there, other than, in my opinion, the Alliance mobilization event was, like you said, it was a tester to prelude to something else, and the Alliance mobilization was like the prelude to your registered KDK combatants, and in which case you just fucking registered us as an Imperial. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and two, I honestly had this thought too, kind of shifting back to the whole commander thing. Neptune dropped in that he's currently in KVK 3, and like, they couldn't do anything because it's all SOC Commanders now. Yeah, the Guan Skippies, Nevsky Jones. Like, I was honestly like, yes, okay, now you're giving players, like, give players access to them. Like, maybe don't allow them to use, because I mean, even still, 50 players migrating back to KVK 2 to get ready to go into a KVK 3 and unleash Season of Conquest Commanders. Not to mention, KVK 3 is fucking ruins and altars fights for 90% of the KVK. Those motherfuckers, those 50 players are going to be using 50 SOC marches against, you know, this little pool of native players. So it's like, again, I don't know who said it, but you kind of lean me to this point too, is why don't they kind of use 1002 and 1001 as like the beta servers. Why don't they just get a beta test of players, content creators? They did it before with Champions of Olympia. Like, they all gave them access to Champions of Olympia. Why can't you get like beta testers for certain things, test it out for like a week or two, you know, give us some fucking gems and shit, you know? That would be great, because I think, again, Europe also says like they're okay for suggestions. Like, there's trash, they don't listen, you know, they don't listen to any of that stuff. Like, I look forward to developer feedback just to see how garbage it is, and it's like, oh well, you didn't answer any of the main points that, you know, players have been, you know, wanting for, you know, X amount of time, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, we are such a small pool of players, right? Like, we're speaking on behalf of, you know, I bet it's maybe 2/3 of our kingdom would agree, and then the other third probably wants something different. Like, we are such a small pool of players that are talking about this, but I think the grand scheme of things is you start looking at how the seed powers drop, and consistently, it, you know, to me, it's due to players quitting the game because it's just not fun anymore.
I think, and again, I am just all over the place shooting from the hip. But again, part of the whole thing of having an active kingdom and being committed to it somewhat, it all revolves around KVK, because it's such a large, it's very rewarding, and it's all the action is there. But it's also it is such a long period of time for them to just drop the ball. You've got, going into matchmaking, you're already prepping yourself. We need to get rid of dead weight. We need to, you know, I can't stand these rogues. We need to try to get these MGEs fixed the way we want them, the whole shebang. Then you go into matchmaking, you go into preview KVK, you go into KVK. And when they've dropped the ball on their matchmaking process, that's the problem, where you go, well, what the hell else is there? Because there isn't anything else. And that's another aspect that I'd love for them to address. One of the simplest things that we talk about in our kingdom all the time, I'm sure other people have. Why the hell have I finished 2 SOCs in 76? Why am I still rallying level 5 barb forts? Why the hell is that the strongest fort you can put? Why are there still only level 25 barbs? I'm just saying, I'm not even talking about the rewards. I'm even saying for the lower powered players, to where it's like, give them something of a challenge. Give any of us a challenge.
Yeah.
And those are small changes that they could make without breaking the bank on anything. And not even that rewarding for us. It's not like you're giving stuff away. It's just change up the monotony, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and even to that point as well, holy sites as well, like Crusader Fort back in the day. Was that
Yes.
our KVK2 when we were, or no, my KVK1, we were laughing at one kingdom, and I think it was actually Kingdom 2583 who we had played against, or one of the kingdoms. Dude, it was hilarious seeing them try like 7 times for like 2, 3, 4 days to figure out how to do this thing, and they just couldn't figure it out. But like now we're so strong, you know, with the new commanders. Yeah, you could literally swarm an RCF.
Yeah.
You know,
imagine you've got 3 or 4 Crusader camps in your starting zone, and it's not even a thing anymore.
Yeah.
You just snake, go send your 5 marches and go form that. But so again, it's like, that's what I mean. It's like, it's okay to ramp up the difficulty level on this stuff.
Yeah,
because
it's a strategy
otherwise,
game at its core. It's a strategy game.
I've even said, like, dude, every off season you ought to have to recapture the Lost Temple again. Give me something I mean, for real, but make it harder, because it is. Otherwise, almost nobody wants to, when KVK's over or when you teleport back home, nobody just really looks forward to, hey, I'm going to chain barbs and I'm going to gather up gems and gold every day until next KDK. There's just not enough to do. And I don't think these are major changes. I really don't. I think you could seriously make a couple changes here or there to where the off season isn't just so dead. You're just waiting for Shadow Legion or Silk Road just to get 6 gold hits. It's like, put something in there that matters.
Yeah. And let me just go into chat real quick, because I saw a comment pop up, but I just want to respond to. JS, welcome to the stream. It would be nice to have another person on the podcast which is enjoying this game. It's a pretty one-sided discussion. So look, I'm not saying I don't enjoy the game. I'm still playing the game for a reason. I do enjoy it. I think community is a huge part of why a lot of us are still playing this game. When we do get good KVKs, like last KVK was a blast for me, although like, you know, a little wacky in terms of who we had to fight, which was Europe, and you know, a really beastly A seed kingdom with just another B seed, and population was, you know, not in our favor, but we still had a blast in that KVK. But this is King's Corner podcast. You have council members, kings, that will come on here, and you know, this part of this discussion today is definitely more or less the frustrations that we've been experiencing as leadership. More so, regular players can feel these things for sure, but I think when you put as much time and effort into planning, which I kind of had alluded to before, into making sure our kingdoms can have the best experience possible, these frustrations are going to arise. And I think these are discussions that you won't get as in depth with normal players who just log on and they're, you know, there for, you know, the kingdom and the alliance and stuff like that. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I mean, I do still enjoy the game. Obviously I'm a content creator for it. I enjoy seeing these big fights and fighting in some of them. I was just fighting in the 960 KVK, which was pretty fun. So, you know, there are players that still enjoy this game, but just to give you a little bit of perspective on why this discussion is the way that it is right now, is, you know, there's some frustrations from leadership. And I think that you saw that with the whole 254 thing. Like, they were burnt out. And then you give a top-notch kingdom like that no matches for 8 months. No fighting for 8 months. This is a war game in its core. You need to give people fights. So that's kind of why this is, you know, Ray told me to make the thumbnail juicy and the heading juicy. I probably should have, so people knew what they're getting into if they were just tuning in. But
I mean, and that's, and everything we've touched on so far is just the basics, right? I enjoy the game, and I had a lot of fun last KVK. We lost the storehouse battle, right? Like, we were out of our storehouse when our enemy went into their downtime. So we couldn't close the Kingsland. We couldn't close it out. So when they come into their uptime a couple hours later, we can't even backflag, right? We went into our downtime. They come into their uptime. It is what it is. We took it out. But that fight was fun. But what made it fun was the fact that we could manipulate matchmaking. We picked our allies. We knew what our matchmaking power was, and there was 3 different teams we could have been matched with. Now, I would have we would have done better than 2293's allies. Europe, you could have hooked us up, but it is what it is. We did what 2305 did in our KVK, right? Like, we went 1v2 against the B camps and closed them out, but we didn't have the storehouse to finish building to our enemy's camp. And the Nile format I like because of the team up. What I hate is when they throw you into camps when you simply, like our KVK 4, we had 2 camps that were doing a recovery KVK that didn't fight. They talked like they were going to fight, but they when it came to, I think it's past 6 or 7 that opens up mid zone, like they didn't show up. They had 93 mil players out doing barb chaining when we got fort bombed. Like, you can't count on your allies because Lilith doesn't know if they're going to fight or not. And that's my biggest point, is like, you can't sit here and tell me that you're making fair matchmaking when you simply don't know if somebody's kingdom will even show up to fight. Like, Lambo went into a Nile KVK with literally a dead kingdom on the opposing side. Like, there's nobody there. I looked it up. I went and checked it out. And, like, to me, that kingdom should just be put into purgatory.
Yeah.
Stop. I mean, and this is something else. Like, everybody has a problem with people using bots and all this other stuff, but it's like, once you start going down that road, and I think Lilith has done a good job not doing it, but all the players that use, have somebody gather resources for them for an assistance fee, like, those accounts will all go away.
Yeah.
They're not, most of these people aren't running 30 farm accounts on their own. They use an assister, like they use a bot. And once, that's something else too. Like, when you simply, like, start looking at some of these things, like, is farm accounts, are these bot accounts actually part of, are all these resource assisters farm accounts part of your activity, because they go out and they log on 5 to 7 times a day and send out gatherings for an AP. Yeah. Like, are they counting for your activity level? Because if they are, like, fuck, we have 1,000 player kingdom, right? Like, it's insane.
Well, I think that we've seen it too. Like, they've slowly started to adjust their wording. I think there's been so much talk about matchmaking and stuff, and I think with Plague's last screenshot, now they're starting to add that little bit in there. Okay, well, now your victories count, your defeats count. I guess stat line wise is what they're talking about, and then not only that, but also the overall wins that your KVK or your kingdom is a part of. So yeah, I mean, the matchmaking has to get fixed very soon, because I feel like I'll
take a loss in every KVK as long as I get to have fun.
Yeah,
like, you give me,
absolutely.
Our King's Land was 14 hours, and it was the most fun, and then we run out of a storehouse. Like, you give me that every KVK, that's what I want. What I don't want is when you group me into groups and I have to try to diplomacy, like, do Diplo with a heroic anthem where the 2 strongest kingdoms have played together before, and simply say, no, we're going to be allies. Like, and you're already, the odds are stacked against you. Like, it just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think too. Like, it's like, kind of back to that point, and I think Pocket in chat made this remark too. Like, it doesn't, like, we do have to get away from the power, and that's kind of something that I was starting to talk about last KVK. Getting away from power. You can't just go and straight up match make 2 similar kingdoms in power and put them up against another kingdom who has the same top 300 power, because then you run into population issues. Then you have to think about, now there's a spending variable that you now have to think about. Look at our zone matchup that we're going to have in these first zones, where we're going to have to fight against 671, which is a true Imperium kingdom, with us and 2334, we're 2-1 alliance kingdoms. Not only are we getting outpopulated, we're now getting out crystal teched, which was the case in our last KVK with 875 against 2172. Their 2172 players were straight up saying, this hurts. Like I'm getting melted because it's you know, let's say 150-ish plus players who are true max tech, just, you know, banging up against you. So you have that, you have those variables, and then you have the variable of you just need people to, you have to get to the core of it too, like you guys had both mentioned, and you just need to find kingdoms that are going to be fighting. Because thank God I've only had it once. It was in our KVK4. Turtle was there in 1780. It was our first ever season of conquest, and it was a straight up farmville. Like literally we farmed the entire KVK. I almost quit. Like if I wasn't making, I think that was really kind of when I just had kind of started making content too and like getting into it. Like I legit almost quit, because I think that was us coming out of KVK 3, which was whack, and then we had this farmville. It was about 6 to 8 months. So I can kind of feel for 1254 when you have such a long period of time with no fights. It sucks, man. It's a war game at its core. We need good fights. End of the day, and Yerp made a point too in chat that, you know, we're getting good fights, but they're shorter fights. You know, I think that needs to be changed too, and I think with better matchmaking and better adjustments that they can make with, you know, the kingdom matchups, you will get longer fights. I remember our KVK2 in 1777, in a KVK2, I wish Hunky was here, he can quote me on it, that Turtle might be able to remember. In a KVK2, we fought for 11 days straight. In a KVK2, even our KVK2, we were fighting for, you know, good, you know, probably
I think it was like
2 or 3, 4 days straight, I think, at one point.
Well, no, it ended up being like 8 because we didn't have that bridge. We didn't have a break because of the rebellion.
Yes.
And 76 didn't stop fighting because we tried to help push 63 out of the zone.
Like you don't
so we went from one side to the other.
Yeah, you don't get those level of fights on the mid kingdom tier level anymore. You have to look to the Imperium, and I think that's why obviously a lot of people want to go to these Imperiums. But now they're breaking Imperiums up, so there's no longer going to be, I forget the one KVK where it was 254, 1093. It was a super mega Imperium, Strife of the 8. I'm pretty sure it was 846 was part of it too. I'm pretty sure there was fighting literally for like 30 days straight. That KVK was insane.
Yeah, I think that was that 1156, 1365, 1254. Like, yes. I think that's the one that happened. Well, it was like the last big fight, or second to last big fight that 254 had before they went into that 2000 KVK.
And Strife, I mean, it I don't even think it's the format skins or the map at this point anymore. It's
See, I think Strife of the 8 could be excellent. It could be awesome because it's basically and you know, I'm not a 12P guy, but you know, he made a video about how Strife of the 8 is basically KVK2.
It is, yeah.
But it's all corner kingdoms. So you know how everybody had problem with corner kingdoms in KVK2? Like, that's what Strife of the 8 is basically everybody's a quarter kingdom, which I think Strife of the 8 would be great, except for the fact that if you're a B or a C seed, you could have like 36 to 40 kingdoms on a KVK map. Like, diplomacy is a fucking nightmare. Like, cool. And this is like, you know, and I think this is where they're like, well, we consider language as a you know, for matchmaking. Well, sure, you probably manipulate it to the point where you know that English speakers are probably going to ally with English speakers. So you put it, you know, you have already divvied up the map on how it should be diplo wise.
Yeah.
But it's not how it always plays out.
Wow, that's a great point. Never thought about that. Yeah, if they're throwing in, like, say if it's a Strife of the 8, right? 4 primary English international alliances and 4 Asian alliances or kingdoms. Most likely those Asian kingdoms are gonna, you know, buddy up together.
Good morning, Ray.
5 a.m. podcast. Hello. Yeah, I mean,
Which language in it, that being a factor is just hilarious. The fact, like again, how does that what is the scale? Like that's what I'm that's what I'm asking. Like, where does language rank compared to the other factors and all? Because it's just like, well hell, just change our language. Just call it. Hey, we're speaking German from now on.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, whatever it takes to get a good matchup. Just switch the language.
Everyone change your game language to Chinese. we're all gonna learn this together, guys.
I enjoy even losing, but if you're not gonna give me a fair fight, where like that's the issue is when you go into a KBK in 2 or 3 kingdoms in two different camps that played together in the past and allied before, and they like each other and they know how strong they're gonna ally together. So even if you try to manipulate it where they should be even, they can stack the odds in their favor, and like there's nothing you can do about it as a kingdom. So inadvertently, you just slowly kill your kingdom off because everybody gets frustrated or upset because you're losing KVKs or you're not. And it's like, what as leaders can you do? And it's really, there's nothing you can do because Lilith hasn't given you anything to do. And Plague brought this up to me the other day. He's like, you know what they need to do? It's like, if they need to give us more home kingdom control. Like, I want a debuff. Like, if there's an MG rule breaker and there's somebody who's completely opposed to the kingdom, I want to be able to make their training speed minus 30% instead of minus 5. Their resource gathering minus 50 instead of, like, I want to make it so that that you give me help dealing with rogues or players that we just want to leave, or assist some of these kingdoms, help get players out of there, right? Like, make a skill so, like, if I exile somebody in home kingdom, it puts them in purgatory. It costs them half the amount of passwords to go away. And like, so it puts them in purgatory. If you want to make it fair, so like you can't just exile somebody, well, it puts them in purgatory for 30 days. If you don't want to play the game for 30 days, then you stay. Or there's some of these things you can do.
Yeah, either that, or I liked the idea that people had tossed around about how they were talking about registering for a KDK. That would actually, I don't think it would fix it, but that would help kind of deal with dead weight in a different manner, so that you wouldn't have to actually attack and zero dead weight. You could just exclude them and go, all right, you can hang out here, but you're not getting registered for KVK. Yeah. And because that in essence, that's the problem. It's not like, oh, I don't like seeing you sitting, ranked 3rd above me in power. It's the fact that you count towards matchmaking and you don't contribute. So, and I'm not saying that Lilith has done anything wrong in that regard, but it's kind of a thing of, again, like you were talking, it'd be interesting to know how many of the developers actually play their own game, because they may not understand our issues and problems with that. Some people go rogue because they were dead weight, and they don't understand, so they got zeros, and then they get upset. Whereas, the result could be the same, but at least it would be the game kind of forces you to deal with dead weight that way, or leave.
Yeah,
you have to either accept that this person is dead weight, or you have to deal with it, and that starts a domino effect. And again, that's another reason where if you get the right amount of people that are doing that, you have people that leave kingdoms because of that. They just get tired of it.
Yeah.
Now, every kingdom has problems, but you sometimes that just motivates someone to go, you know what? I just need to change this scenery. I'm tired of seeing this asshole, break MGE caps every single time. I'm tired of seeing him push power, knowing we're trying to have a power diet so that we can have a competitive KVK. You log in and you get tired of it. And those are things that I think could be worth investigating, where you go, hey, is there a way to register a KVK somewhat similar to an ARC match, where you go, hey, these people can participate, these can't. And that's how you should rank us, because it does the fact that you cannot get rid of people that just don't want to go. We've got a couple that man, for as much as I can't stand them, I actually have to respect their commitment to being a douchebag. They log in every day, farm in gyms, keep a peace shield on, and it's crazy because it's like you have more activity now than you did when we were in KVK fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Your commitment to screwing us over and screwing the rest of the kingdom over is bigger and stronger than it was when we were actually fighting for rewards. And that it sucks. It weighs on you, man. You get tired of it. You're like, hey, I was supposed to get 10th spot in this MGE, and now I'm down because 2 guys pushed, and then you're trying to rearrange everything on the fly. That stuff is like real. Lots of kingdoms. I've been in 5 or 6 kingdoms for long stretches. That stuff gets old. It really wears thin on you, and you just go, God, I don't want to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of it. Some people. Go ahead.
I migrated out of 1777 because we had that issue. We had a bunch of little rogues in Zone 3 that we could do nothing about. They were zeroed and they were just running around and killing farms like for weeks on end. And I was like, fuck this, I'm leaving. Like there's no point in staying here anymore. Like did I give them the satisfaction and did they do their job? Sure. But why does the game have to come to that?
Well, and that's the sad part. The leadership there, you may have been part of the leadership, but the leadership there probably did everything they could.
Mm-hmm.
But your hands are tied, and so that's why when Ray and I have absolutely nothing to do and we're just spitballing ideas, we talk about that stuff because it is, again, it all affects a player's mentality and morale and attitude towards the game, and those are legitimate things where it's like, look, I don't want to drop negative titles on people to be an asshole leader. I want to push them out because they don't want to be here, because they don't want to actually be a part of anything. Mm-hmm. They're just here to be disruptive, and that's sad. Like, they can hate me. Hell, I'll give them a ton of resources to do something or whatever. It's like, just leave. I'll damn near send you PayPal and buy your passports for you.
Yeah.
Stop screwing over the other 50 to 60 people that need these MGE spots and such, man. That's what sucks. You can't. You're like I said, your hands are tied.
Well, that's something too. Like, we've talked a little bit about, but it's also like you make it so that way, like, kingdoms have to register for KVK, and like Chisgo said, everybody should register together. Well, that some of these kingdoms are just dead kingdoms. So either do something about it or make it so they don't ever register.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all they are. They're literally, there's kingdoms out there that just are MGE farms.
Well, I think
that's all they are.
I think part of the solution, and I made a note here, that one thing that that Lilith needs to do, I think, and I think Lambo has also said this as well, they need to start cleaning up some of these servers. They need to start eliminating the servers. How they go
Lambo is not in a dead kingdom. Lambo is in a competitive D-seed kingdom. Like, the difference.
C-seed now, but
he's a C-seed?
They've got bumped to C-seed, yeah.
Damn. Come for the big dogs.
I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lambo, but yeah, I think that he made a good point. Like, they need to do something about the dead kingdoms, and kind of to your point as well. 60 million power in 36 hours, Jesus. There's too many dead kingdoms out there, like you were saying. A forced kingdom merger or something could definitely be something.
I had an idea.
Even playing with the idea of this, because I think, like, when a lot of people first heard KVK was becoming a thing, like, a lot of the new players be like, oh my gosh, KVK, like, does that mean that they can come in and invade our kingdom? And they should absolutely do that. If there's a way to do that, like, if you can go adjacent and start just taking over kingdoms and clearing them out that way, that would be sick. I don't know if they can do that, but that would be really dope, and I think that could start to solve some problems, because now, like, say for example, like 2581, if we wanted to, we could start taking over our continent, absorbing all the active players, and then just fucking, like, demolishing Lost Temple or some shit.
Europe calls it the fucking Gulag Kingdom. No, see, this is what I was thinking, right? If you, so, like, all right, we'll say truly a dead kingdom is probably around 6 billion power. Like, you see them out there all the time. They're always the ones for sale. Like, if you were to take that kingdom and say, whatever is active there, right? Like, if that account has logged in, whatever, and you set a threshold of like this kingdom has to have X amount of kills, or it's like you send a kingdom, like a developer mail that says this kingdom has to have X amount of kills / deads, or it's going to be merged.
Mm-hmm.
It virtually, like Lambo's case, he dropped 60 mil. You know, what is that? 6 million dead troops or something like that. So like, that kingdom's not a dead kingdom.
Yeah.
But like, there's kingdoms that won't even do that.
In its entirety of KDK.
Right. Like, it's so you look at those kingdoms and it's like, well, they're not fighting, they're not taking deads, it's not a kingdom. Like, go ahead and disband it. Mm-hmm. Like, here you go, you're getting merged with, you pick another dead kingdom and be like, oh, at the end of this KVK, this kingdom's coming to this one.
You give them a long enough notice, if you give them a notice of what's going to happen. Let them kind of try to prep mm-hmm. for it. But yeah, there's no, because again, the same thing. You have to have you have requirements to play Ark of Osiris. You have to have X amount of players. You have to, if mm-hmm. your power has to be a certain level to play in gold or silver, or whatever. So again, it's like everything else has some form of expectation or requirement, and just simply being on cruise control is you're not really. Now people have either, there's really not a middle group. It really feels like you're either dead, or like everybody's rushing to an Imperium or a larger A seed. And mm-hmm. also, and this is beside the point, but hell, I sometimes you can't blame them.
Yeah.
If you just jumped into a kingdom that whips ass all the time in KVK, there's like, reasonably active players, but not spenders or anything else. I know they're toting around more SOC shit than I am, just mm-hmm. just by the fact that they were on the winning side. Like they might not fight hardly at all. But they were in the damn alliance that in the kingdom that won. So there's a big gap now. Almost like like the economic system, where it's like there's a whole lot of really dead kingdoms, and there's some really good active, and that middle bunch is a really, really small group, and that's the one that's kind of getting jerked around.
Guys,
you're getting dragged up.
I think Donkey Kong just hit the fucking nail on the head, and it kind of coincides with what we were talking about earlier. What if you could do a KVK that is actually fighting for a higher level home kingdom? That means that, and this is very broad, right? This is something that we can obviously.
Yeah, but it's not even really broad if you think about the systems already established with the Alliance mobilization event. Like, to a degree, you're competing as other kingdoms to improve to another level.
True.
With better rewards.
Yeah, better rewards. So you can fight in this KVK. You get upgraded to, let's say, your map stays the same, obviously, all that stuff. But like,
I don't know where 960 Puma is, but you're starting at the fucking top.
The barbs become higher, the forts become higher, and yes, now we're going to increase the rewards a little bit. This doesn't be this massive jump, but now you increase the rewards a little bit. And then I was even thinking to the point too, before Donkey Kong had said this, is to kind of assist in the matchmaking process a little bit. What if there's something that you can contribute to in Home Kingdom, like contributing something to Lost Temple, kind of similar to what you do in the Crusader Fort, that kind of proves your activity? Give us a true barometer within the kingdom that shows where your activity level is, and do a matchmaking system, kind of something like that.
Lane, but we're not talking about merging kingdoms anymore. We're talking about like the level you compete at is where you get matchmaking, right? Like if you're always punching down, like they just move you up, right?
Mhm.
Like if you're put into a pool of 10 or 12 kingdoms and you punch up, like you get upgraded. If you punch down, if you punch down, like or whatever, you get upgraded, downgraded as needed. Like it's already been tested with the Alliance mobilization event. Like if you don't meet it, you get relegated. If you perform well, you get promoted, right? Like
yeah. Essentially, yes. Like again, your map stays the same. All that you just bump up the goodies that your kingdom is now going to receive, or something like that. You know, you're fighting for a higher level kingdom, I think, and that'll now, you know, you start to have you know, your kingdom's rankings or something like that. Again, kind of to the Alliance mobilization point, and now those higher ranking kingdoms are now going to start fighting each other. Something like that. Again, very super broad in general, but I think that's a great little, you know, tidbit there. Turtle, thank you for the $5 super chat. One thing they need to fix, for example, 2581 is 1.5 Alliance and are going to fight 671 that is 4 years old and have more time to establish their accounts. Yeah, well, I mean, this majority, I mean, besides the first like 5 or 10 minutes of opening and introductions, I've pretty much just been kind of spitballing ideas, a little bit of ranting and on why the game is kind of in the state that it is now. But I think now we're kind of getting into a little bit more progressive discussions of to what can Lilith do to, you know, up the ante a little bit, and make things a little bit more fair in terms of the matchmaking. Ray, thank you for being a member for 3 months. Plague stinks. You're Ray and Plague, I'm gonna turn it over to you guys for like a minute or two. I gotta take a piss. I'll be right back. But yes, a lot of this discussion has been and now turned into actual progressive things. So Donkey Kong, great thoughts. I mean, that's fucking huge. I'll be right back.
Can somebody go ahead and look up in the chat and see if we can get my man a mustache or something? Because that shit he's got is gross. I mean, the more and more you talk about it, there's more and more ideas out there. But like we've all said, and we've repeatedly said, like, Lilith is way too slow to act on any of these ideas or to do anything because it's fear on how it will affect the bigger kingdoms, right? Like, we're talking about keeping the smaller kingdoms in play and enjoying the game, whatever, but the populations, like, you have to be considered. Europe, I'm taking the 9 years of speed ups because as much as I would love a Zenith skin, like 9 years of speed ups could do a lot of fun, especially with endless resources. Pocket, we're not really talking about how to merge two kingdoms. We were actually talking about like setting it up so they like the Alliance mobilization event, where if your kingdom isn't competed or it's relegated or whatever, like you how do I say this? Like the two kingdoms don't merge, but one kingdom may get destroyed because there's kingdoms out there that are simply dead kingdoms that are just MGE farms. They let people migrate in, they spend an off season there, they get the passports, and then they leave.
Oh shit! Sorry guys. I don't know where we are. I'm just gonna jump in though. Jordan, thank you for the 5,001 super chat. Europe, as the great Bert Kreischer, I think it was Bert Kreischer, had said, my dick is clean. I don't need to wash my hands. Real quick to Maury, since you're still here and you guys had gotten some feedback, it seems you guys have been going back and forth. If you want to jump on and kind of detail some of your guys' findings, you're more than welcome to.
Oh yeah, bring Maury on. He was cool as fuck. And Europe. I love Europe.
That's why he's Dirty Dan. What were we discussing while I went to the bathroom to not wash my hands?
Would you rather have a Zenith skin or 9 years of speed ups?
If it's a 15% attack Zenith skin, definitely the Zenith skin for sure.
You're trash.
Oh man.
One of the things y'all were touching on, again about the various levels, and I could be wrong. I haven't competed in I'm 99.9% positive, but kind of going back to what y'all were talking about the different seedings and KDKs and classes of rewards. Yeah, when you stop and think about it, as I said, I'm 99.9% positive this is true. You can be a dead kingdom, win a KDK, and get the same shit that Imperium got fighting their ass off for 20 straight days. Or am I wrong?
Valued point? No, that's a value.
Are the KVK rewards?
No,
are they any different? So I mean that. So again, that's kind of why you might have people hanging out doing that, and I'm not going to fault them, but that contributes to the players being kind of spread out, and I mean, because I'm sure the developers would tell you something to the effect of, well, we don't want to give you the formula for matchmaking because then you'll just manipulate it. Man, it's all getting manipulated anyways. Like let's be real. So, but yeah, I mean that's something to stop and think about. Where you go, wow, somebody was in a 6, 7, 8 dead kingdoms. Somebody got the same shit that like 1960 got.
Yeah.
My farm got an autoc reward in 2581.
So I'm just saying, like, that's part of I'm just saying that's kind of, again, part of the thought process behind it of going, that's why people might not join certain kingdoms, might migrate out and go to certain kingdoms, and it's their prerogative to an extent. But I also think it slowly but surely becomes detrimental to the game because, again, you're kind of jerking around. You're jerking around a larger group of players because of this.
Well, Maury was kind of alluding to that also, that the matchmaking system is more or less like ELO. So if you, I guess,
dude, I would love if Maury would hop on here and like give us some insight. Like, that dude is cool. Like, mad respect for Maury in Europe. Like, if they want to hop in, like, that'd be cool. Yeah, definitely. I love having conversations.
You guys got the green light. Europe, Maury, if you want to come on. Former King's Corner podcast guests, always more than welcome. Yeah, I mean that's interesting too. If this is going to be, kind of like ELO, where if you win, you move up, if you lose, you go down, and then they're going to start kind of matching you. And that, I think, again, that's why they keep changing. They keep changing. In the past 2 weeks, right? We've now gotten language is now a deciding factor in matchmaking.
Wins,
losses, and now
defeats,
also
victories
and defeats. In 2 weeks, they have now changed or added the aspects of matchmaking. Like, just give us the true formula. Just tell us what the fuck it is, so we can have more control. This has been a thing on the channel for a while, and this is something that Ray has preached. We need more control in this game. They need to give us more control. So I'm not really sure, where to go with it from here.
So for Europe, in your question, like, I don't know if I'd change anything. Like, the reality is like, you could always say you want better fighters. You could always say you need more rally garrison leads. But at the end of the day, I only want to deal with 150 people. I'd rather have a one alliance kingdom every day to deal with less people. And I wish it could just be like, hey, like, everybody everybody that's not in the top 150, get going. Like, I would prefer that more. Like, because that's what, in the end, like when you're a lower seed or even a one alliance kingdom, that's what you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we entered Kingsland, I think, with like 123 or 127 accounts online. Like, that's what you have for active players. Like, that's truly what you have. But yet, the way your power is, it just changes it.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to do more than, I mean, from a leadership perspective, I personally could not manage to do more than, you know, kind of managing 150 people.
Everybody's talked about, like, well, do you think we should go to a B seed? Do you think we should go to 2 alliance? It's like, no, it's not fun. You lose the access to everybody having friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, people have more friends, but then it turns into a clique.
Yeah.
Right? Like a smaller group, which I think 140 is a big group. It like you just simply you have less cliques, and you have to learn to play together. And normally the only ones that do dumb shit or disrespect the kingdom are rogues. So I personally wouldn't change anything. Like I would stay a one alliance kingdom. Maybe not delete forts, and maybe 81 will let me 0 accounts before I get a fort built. But no, it's just how I feel, man. And like, some people may or may not agree. Like Lambo has the same idea of like small kingdom. They're all friends. They can hop in voice. So there'll be about 40 of them probably. And like, I would rather have that than have 300 to 1,000 players that you have to deal with. Like, man, props to Europe and Maury for, you know, being what they are for A seed, and then systematically only recruiting people that will stay out of their top 300. Like, that's props to them. That is a very well run kingdom. But when your base power is 20 mil, like, you can't really do that.
Yeah, it's impossible.
You can't even control it. Like, we had like, I think I counted the other day, like 17 accounts that showed up under 25 mil.
Wow.
Like, what are you supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
They're just adding to your matchmaking because your baseline's so low.
I think I mean there's definitely some benefits too, because it's like like, I mean, for them it's beautiful, because I think that they actually do have a little bit more of that control, because their base is so high, and they can kind of work things a little bit more easily. But again, it comes down to then having total buy-in, right? That's kind of what we talked about a little bit with them, is, you know, they have guys in their kingdom having total buy-in, because they're I think the only guests that I've had so far that are in a bigger seed and multiple alliances, because Syriax only has a one alliance kingdom too. Yeah, just having that total buy-in from not only leadership but also from players too. And they're really blessed to have that third alliance of mostly native players who are just kind of casual, and they'll kind of just come around and do their thing, which kind of leads me to a point too where that Pocket had mentioned, and I don't know what the feelings are on this, but the game is so geared to, you know, you have to stay active, you have to, you know, especially if you're in matchmaking, which again, I think this is where making it kind of like Jackal is saying, with making it like an arc player selection, which they've alluded to, I think that really solves a massive chunk.
You want to know what I feel
problem.
like why they haven't pulled the trigger yet? You want to know how? Honestly, because it would piss off their highest spending kingdoms, because they couldn't bring their farms accounts. Like, that's how I feel, right? Like, I feel that unless they, in which, let's be completely honest, you think 960 cares? Like, they're gonna register their fucking farms. Like, it is what it is. But it's just that there's so many of these kingdoms. Like, you in 2305 executed it fucking perfectly against 2293, where you filled garrisons with your farms and was able to hold, you know, 2293 for however long, right? Like, you had that whole 24 hours because of the way you built your forts, the whole 9 yards. And like, but you used a tactic to your advantage, which is using farms to fill and alt accounts. And I think the only reason they haven't done it is because they're afraid of the backlash that that's going to cause in their bigger, higher spending kingdoms.
Yeah. And I think even from a smaller player standpoint too, we had one guy 386 come in who was a friend of Durr's, and that dude killed it with his farms. He's just from a smaller DC kingdom, you know, and I think if you take some of those players' ability away to do what they do, you know, it hurts them as well, because he ranked, because of the way that we had our DKP structure set up. He was like, I don't know, I want to say like he was top 10 for sure, top 10 in DKP in our kingdom as a free to play, just because he put in work with his farms. So, you know, I think it affects the smaller players too. So and maybe 300 is, you know, a little too little, right? Because I think Europe had mentioned that they run, Europe and Mori, they run I think they run a 350 scan on the players that are going for like DKP, because those are the players who could potentially affect matchmaking. And then I think he said that they run like 400, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 400, maybe a little bit more. So maybe you make it 400, you know, that can enter, because now you're not like totally, because I think the state of the game, right? Like there's Imperiums and all this stuff. 600. 600, yeah. Oh, they do 600. Thank you, Rels. Do it 600 then, if anything. Because that way then you can fit in the bigger Imperium kingdoms. The bigger Imperium kingdoms, honestly, I mean, like yes, it's a tactic to use, but should Imperium kingdoms really be using farms?
Well, here's my thing, dude. Like, if you're gonna register as many as you want. That's on you. I personally feel like make it easy.
Yeah.
If I just click register UG Alliance, register HO Alliance, fucking done. Move on.
Yeah.
Right, like I registered 340 players or whatever it is, like in the off season. Like, you can make it simple that way. You just register the 2 alliances. That's what you can bring. They're like the only accounts to enter. Like, if you say you're going to register 3 alliances, yeah, this system would kind of screw 29 or 2293, because then then those players would count for matchmaking, because you're bringing 3 alliances. So you're bringing, 450 players versus me and you who are like, all right, well, I'm only going to register 300. But it would take away, like, if we registered our true 300, like, it would take away almost like 2 or 3 billion wasted power throughout the kingdom just by registering our top 2 alliances.
Yeah.
Well, it's reasonably similar. I mean, you already have something of that scale out there with migration. I mean, you have a migration cap that gets moved back and forth to let players in, but you kind of if you go back to say like KDK 1 and going into KDK 2, you have to set a cap, and that's what your cap is. It's and when you register players for an arc match, I mean, you're registering who's going to fight, and that's that. So, I mean, there's no reason, to a certain degree, there's no reason you can't just do the same thing for KDK and just say, hey, you can be unlimited. So that's for all the big boys that are bloodthirsty. And then the next category down could be somewhere closer to, let's just say, 600 or 500 or 400, whatever the case is. And then you've still got like some form of a bracket that the kingdom can somewhat control of who gets counted towards their, towards their matchmaking or whatever. I think there's still a way to kind of, as I said, to place people into weight classes without it just being so wide open.
If they were to leave it open, though, do you think that they would run into an issue with having that extra variable to factor in when it comes to population?
What do you mean?
Because now, like, say you guys, right, say we both register 14 billion worth of power, but I'm able to register 14 billion worth of power with 600 accounts. That's extreme. That sounds like botting, kind of, sort of. But you guys are only able to register 14 billion with 400 accounts. That's 200 account difference, X amount of troops, much more amount of troops that are being able to use. Do you think now that becomes an issue if it becomes unlimited?
I mean, I don't think so. I think you knowingly go in, like, if you're, and that's the difference though. Like, then you factor in Crystal Tech, right? Like, what are you bringing for 450? If I bring 600, what am I bringing?
True.
Like 875 is bringing 150, 200 Max Tech players. So like 2172's got what, 20, if that? Like, it's just, that is my opinion. Like, you're always going to have kingdoms that have the ability to manipulate the system. It's just the fact that, like, how it's manipulated and what you give it, the smaller kingdoms more favorable, right? And the bigger kingdoms have to decide how they're going to play and continue to run their kingdom, right? Like, instead of it being where the smaller kingdoms don't really have a say on how their matchmaking's made, where bigger kingdoms, like, if you're an Imperium, you get what you get. But if you're an Imperium, you say, all right, we're going to register 900 players, like, that's what you register. And then it's even less dodging, because it's like, well, I know you guys only can register 900 players. Guess who else can only register 900? Or, like, the powers are even, right? Like, there's less of these top 300 scans.
Yeah. So for me in that scenario, it's about transparency. I can stomach that a little better if I've been given an explanation, especially something that resembles a black and white explanation. If it's just going to be extremely vague, then we're right back to where we started. But if you told me, or if you told, hey, Dirty Dan, y'all got the short end of the, as you asked, you got the short end of the stick on this KDK matchup because this is how many players, this is how much power, what, X, Y, Z, all the reasons. If it's laid out in front of you, you can stomach that a little better than someone coming back and going, we're working really hard to resolve this. It's like, because again, we go back to the original point of all of this is there's no formula that you've ever shared with anyone. So to be blunt, I have no freaking clue if there is a formula. I don't know how you do it. And because I don't know, I can't really believe what you're saying. For all I know, you are just loading up the kingdoms into a damn dice game, rolling them out, and going, oh, there they go. That's who's going. I don't. You can't give me any evidence that you really put thought into this. That's the problem. So if I got the short end of the stick and you explained it and you gave me some type of evidence, then you go back to your players and your friends.
I want you to air that shit out like dirty laundry. Right? I want you to put it out there for everybody to criticize. I want you to simply say, like, you fucking suck. You're 7.8 billion power. That's what you got. And then we'll measure it after. Like, that's what I want. I want you to just air it out. Right? Like, Ark of Osiris, we knew what we had for matchmaking power. And like Lambo, he dropped in the chat. I don't know. Let me read it. Like, that's fucking fun facts. I don't know how he come up with the information, but it's way back here. Something about, of the 2,048 Osiris League games thus far this season, only 5.808% have ended with the winner winning by less than 10,000 points. Like he says, OL group stage needs to be overhauled. A significantly amount, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, OL is built different. OL is built like, we are completely trashed at Osiris League. Like, we just we're working on it. We got better. I mean, we're getting better. It is what it is. Like, it's just something that none of us really had time to put a full effort into, and that's where our shortfalls are. Like me and you've talked, and you've been a great help. So we're working on it. But it's one of those things where, like, at least that shit's aired out. At least you know, like, all right, well, we're fighting a 3 billion power alliance today, or team.
And I think what it does too is it also, obviously it helps leadership, but it keeps leadership more accountable, right? So, if you again, there's only so much you can control, right? And we're about to have like another like town hall meeting for expectations as KVK now that we know our matchups and all this stuff. But it's like it keeps us more accountable to the players in our kingdom to say like, hey, they know what the formula is and they know what it's supposed to be, what kind of KVK we're going to expect, because these are the parameters that are being set by Lilith for matchmaking. Maury is saying that it is ELO, so the more successful you are in KVKs, the more likely you're going to get railed in the next KVK or two. Which to that point, I mean, I guess with Nile, it's a little bit of an outlier, because again, you have the ability to pick your team. So I wish now kind of that we didn't pick Nile last KVK, because we were quite dominant in our KVK 4.
But so, you allied with the biggest kingdom. You can't even say that.
Well, yeah, that was
by design. And like, guess what? Now you've won back to back, and you just put the shafts of 2293. Apologize to that. Europe, yeah. He's sorry. He full-heartedly, Maury, he fucked you guys. Like, that's what happened.
Okay, I see the point now. Yes, fair. Oh man, I was being like, that was my Diplo plan as part of the strategy. Well, yeah, I see your point. I apologize, 2293. All right, I'm sorry. But they automatically teamed with us, so hey, it's two sides of the coin there.
But that's the thing, right? Like in Turtles, like, you know, 2293 is getting fucked again. It's like the issue is 2293, to their humbleness, like, they have been putting the screws to Imperium kingdoms their whole life, like their existence. And like, if the game is gonna fuck the algorithm, it's gonna be against somebody who literally beats Imperium kingdoms as a high AC.
True.
A lot of this still goes back, over and over again, back to the whole whatever factors they claim are in the equation of well, what outweighs what. So again, it's, if you're taking power into consideration, if you take kills into consideration, if you take wins and losses into, what is, you know, so to a certain degree, even if all that was true, it's like, no wonder this shit's all mismatched. There's no way you can group people up like that, because like you just said, all of a sudden you're so similar. You're like, what if our power and all was pretty much identical to yours, but you've won back-to-back KVKs and we haven't. It's like you're still going to get to these kind of roadblocks where it's like, well, they've won and they haven't, or their language is different, or these people.
And that's the thing. Like, what is it? 1647 you're fighting. They just come off of a huge Imperium win against Plotto and company. Like, so they're putting a winner versus a winner, and you guys, and that's the thing. Like, we go back to talking about the victories and defeats. Like, hey, Europe handed you your ass constantly, and I loved it. I'm a Europe fanboy. All right, like, and but like, no, they did. Like, they were beating you guys because you're BC. They outnumbered you in the field. They were winning most rallies because they had the numbers, and that really affected, I think, your matchup, because it's like, well, they lost even though they were winning. You won, and then so we're going to put you against a kingdom that just come off a victory. And then 2000 had a loss, a heavy loss.
True. So yeah, now that we're talking it through, it definitely is now making sense as to why we got matched.
Well, I tried to put it in text messages, but I'm a village idiot, so like I can't write. Right, like my comments, even in your fucking videos, are horrible. But it's just like that's what I feel like. You start looking at the wins, losses, the victories, defeats. Like, shit, we could get screwed on our next KVK because we pummeled the two BC kingdoms for 12 hours. Right, like even though we lost the KVK, like we beat the brakes off. Like, but. And that's the worst part, was like, we beat two BC kingdoms that had like 1.5 billion more power than us. And you want to know, here's a perfect example of another kingdom. That 1132 kingdom literally has a 400 million power rogue.
Nice.
That Kingdom will. He's just fucking. They're matchmaking nonstop.
Yeah.
They can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we can keep going. You know, more control, more transparency. I think these are some common factors that you know, have come up continually, whether it's a stream or a video or podcast or something like that. But you know, I think Lilith definitely. Look, I think they realize some of it. And then it comes back to my point of, okay, well, you're realizing these things, you need to act on it, and you need to act on it quick. You can't take 3 months to, you know, especially with something as severe as this. This cannot be a armament reroll, you know, museum type situation where we're now waiting 3 months. You got to get on this matchmaking thing now. Like, you have to start fixing it so that kingdoms are getting proper matchups, kingdoms are getting proper fights. Otherwise people are just gonna keep dropping off, you know. And they're lucky that there's still some of these top tier imperiums that haven't broken up yet. But with the way that the game is trending with rewards and you know, the potential matchmaking changes, I'm not sure where they go, but they definitely have to act pretty quick. We're about 2 hours into the pod now, so I think we'll start kind of winding down. Chat, do you guys have any questions for Mr. Plague or Mr. Ray as we get some nice juicy 647 on 235 and 641 action? Any questions for the boys? And any kind of closing thoughts for you guys as we kind of wind down, and then we'll do the whole last word spiel. But any closing thoughts on you guys, what Lilith needs to do? Go for it.
Yeah, I personally feel like they just need to speed up something. You have to make a change. Whatever the change is, it has to be tomorrow, not next month, not the following month, you know. And it's due in part because you're losing play. But here's the other thing, like, are they trying to slim their game down? Like, that's the other thing. Like, there could be a possibility that they're trying to drop the game back down to a smaller audience to rebuild it so they have less people mad at them, to rebuild the game after that and remarket it. Like there's all these ideas, and they're not very transparent. All they're doing is just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it's done. And it's not sticking. It's dragging along, and you're losing more and more players. But is it by design? Like, you almost have to think it's by design.
Interesting take. I and I'm with you. I mean, like I've said, they got to do things faster. They take way too long. I think one thing that they can implement too is, I mean, and I think they're also lucky for this point too. They have more and more content creators that keep coming out of this fucking game. My man Skinsy in 2581 is now making content. There's a new guy, Archer Syndicate, who's a new content creator. But
they're losing the OGs just as fast.
Yes, of course, but they're still getting some you know, really like adept content creators. Like, use our platforms obviously, but use us in some of these beta tests. Like, give us like a two-week run trial where, like, maybe, okay, hey, don't do, you know, this kind of content or this kind of content, but let's give them, you know, you can give them a little bit of a glimpse of what we're testing, you know. And then that way we can get more true community feedback on some of these things, whether it's a live stream or a video or whatever it is. But I think, again, giving kings and leadership control, let's loop some of these content creators into this too, and even maybe some top tier players into some beta testing, because again, they did it with Champions of Olympia. Do it again, you know. So
well, so to Maury's point, right, like he's saying a good point. Like, if you reduce the healing costs and the resources, like, you'd have more speed ups, shorter off season. It's like, but if they do that, they have to change the other dynamics to help help kingdoms control their power, their matchmaking. Like, it has to go full circle. Like, it have to be one and the same. Like, you have to be able to visually see what your matchmaking power is going to be and control that ability, and then worry, and then go from there.
Plague, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think I know they don't see it this way, but I think some of the changes that they've made, they need to rethink, and basically aiming at the free-to-play, low-spender players. They've got to make the game fun for people, for those people, and they've got to make the game fun and have significance in the early game. Otherwise, it is all wash, rinse, repeat, and just one more reason is people lose interest. There's not a lot of people that are going to sit around and play a game that is just so robotic, even though it's full of people. And that's actually the reason I like the game. I like the game because it's my Alliance teammates are people, and I can talk to them. I get to know them and stuff. But they've cut so much down to where people are quitting because there's no reason to have that level of commitment over a game that has become boring to them or just not rewarding, because you keep yanking options away from them, or you keep pushing commanders in different directions that they can't even begin to work with. As I said, again, if going back to the KDK 3 thing with these SOC commanders, I mean, you can hoard all the gold heads you want, but like, what are you going to do when you get there? I mean, first you got to have the discipline, but it's like, how many can you max? Yeah. And as you said earlier, if you take in 50 people from a prior migration, I mean, that's enough to win a war if someone else didn't really get the right type of migrants in. And so that's my thing. My thing is like, make the game more interesting, and they have the ability. Shadow Legion, they have Shadow Legion that pops up. I'm not saying that's the most fun thing, but I'm saying, look, the map changes, an event pops up. There should be other events like that are built for older kings. Like, you got to eat at this from the older guys and the stronger players. They need a challenge during the off season. We need something to keep us occupied. Otherwise, we just sit around and complain, and we get tired of farming, and we get tired of rogues, and we get tired. But you also buff the epics, buff those gold key commanders, make them drop faster, because the average player that's been playing isn't going to use that commander anyways. But a new player, a free to play, a low spender, it's going to be way better than what they've got. Go ahead and dole something out. People would be willing to invest in a Ragnar or something early game if they got a better drop rate and it didn't cost them all their gold hits. There's no motivation to do that. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like the game needs to get more interesting during the off season. It needs to get more difficult, more challenging for the older players. But it needs to be more forgiving for the early game players and the low spenders as well, because people are just going to lose interest. They're not going to be in it for the long haul.
Ray, Plague's points are better than yours.
Well, I didn't want to steal a lot of his thunder, because a lot of stuff we talk about is stuff that needs talk about too. And he, to me, like I'm looking at the screen right now, right? Look at that. 2 murder balls about to go into a scrum and absolutely destroy each other, right? Like, set it up where we can have a fucking literally, like, lock the kingdom down, no all deads are returned, and we can just sit there and fight each other for hours on the end in home kingdom. Right? Like, if we wanted. 24-hour straight up purge, everything's restored after. Like, do something. Literally, we need some spaghetti that sticks to the wall.
Hopefully we get it. Hopefully we get it soon. I think great discussion. Fair share of ranting, but I think also fair share of progressive discussion as well. I really do think the offseason needs a revamping, as Maury has kind of alluded to, as well as Lambo now too. Higher level barb forts events after seasons of KVK. Give some crystals for hitting in home kingdoms so free to play have a chance to grind in the offseason and close the gap with pay to win, who was still by crystals. I think that's a great point too. That'll keep engagement and activity up throughout the offseason if you offer some crystals, a little carrot at the end of the stick for that one. Real quick, one question that we got in chat. My question is, why do you keep playing? For me, it's friends. I'll be straight up. For me, I almost quit a few times back in October, and if I wasn't doing content, I probably would have quit. And also part of it is the money that I've invested into it as well. Not so much anymore. I've kind of gotten.
Why are you lying to the people, dude? I brought you back.
Yeah,
I'm the reason.
In the early days when I had, this is my second account, and I dropped a decent amount of money on both. Far more on this one, but the money honestly invested has kind of kept me around because I fucking dumped, if I had to guess, probably around $10,000 into my account, and I'm not just gonna sit and watch it go bye or sell it for like $1,000. So those are the main reasons. Those are some of the main reasons I'm still playing. And then obviously the community aspect is really awesome, especially when you have an opportunity to build something with a nice group of people, similar to what these guys in 2576, 2293, 2592. This is why we do these King's Corner podcasts, because I think that these guys have more insight and have more investment into the game than the average player. So that is why I am still sticking around.
And I'd just like to say, like, if you ever have a shortfall, like, I can rotate Plague out for somebody different, and you can get a totally different opinion. If you ever wanted, like, if you ever have a shortcoming and you need somebody different, like, just hit me up. I'll bring somebody else on, and you can get a different opinion, different take.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, there's always differing opinions. And right now, like, there's things that's been thrown out in the atmosphere that have been talked about by the devs that have never happened. So maybe they're getting more feedback. I mean, Bulba has hinted, Osiris League casting was diluted because of the top 3 or 4 teams didn't want it. He's alluded to that. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know. But it's just like, there's a pretty good chance that it is. And there may be good reason why they don't have that.
Did you guys want to respond to Donkey Kong's question? I have a feeling I know what it's going to be, but if you guys want to give it to the people, and then we'll close it out.
As a player, I still play because of the friends. And I play a little bit too because I feel like I owe it to some of these players to give them the best possible matchmaking. And like, I feel like I'm the right person to do it. Like, this isn't politics, it's just how I am. Like, I enjoy playing, and I enjoy that aspect of the game, and that's why I play.
Plague?
What's the question? Why am I playing?
Yeah.
Why do I keep playing? It's the people. As weird as it sounds, I drag the game somewhat. So don't get me wrong. Like, I have some complaints about the mechanics of the game. Okay. However, I do enjoy the game, and I enjoy playing the game because of the people. And that's the main reason, that without a doubt. Because I'm going to drag it again for a minute. Let's be honest. The shit ain't that interesting, and there's no storyline. But the fact that all the people that I'm playing with are human beings, and I get to know them and stuff, that actually is very, very fun. And that sounds a little cheesy, but it's true. It's a blessing. I've met some really cool people that helped me through some tough times in my life, and
he came to my bar mitzvah.
They've actually leaned on me for some support in some private matters, and I'm an older dude. I'm not a young gamer, and all. So yeah, it's the people. Which is also why I'm so concerned. My concern for the game is not L Plague's happiness from the standpoint. It's if enough people quit, then I don't have a reason to play, because I don't wake up and go, I've got to finish first in this event, or I've got to get this meta gear, meta combo down. I want to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
But if Ray and Snake and some guys that I played with for very long times, I met Donkey Kong through if several of them just started quitting, then yeah, I don't know if I would play. My best bet would be migrate back once, see if I made friends. If not, that would definitely be it. It's just, it's not worth it. Not worth the headache.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I gotta say too, though, real quick, like, yeah, definitely the friends. And I think from us being in leadership, you do form some more tight-knit bonds, I would like to say, because I mean, you guys are, we're working with some of our peeps, hours on end, especially during KVK seasons. And you really form some really, really, really close bonds with some people. I gotta say though, it's and Kenny kind of is alluding to in chat too, that he's made more genuine friendships with people I met in online games and in real life. Even from just taking a step back in this other Viking game, with it being, I mean, it's nice to just not have to worry about some of this leadership stuff too over there, and just kind of be more chill and just kind of relaxed and shooting the shit with people. And that's another game where it's very similar. It's so community based over there. But yeah, I think with these games, a massive part of it is a community. They're lucky. Lilith is lucky that it is the way that it is, and there is such strong friendships. Otherwise, I think the game would probably have kind of withered away at some point already. And yeah, Jackal, it's really dope that we can make friends all over the world. I can't wait to go to some countries like Indonesia and visit my buddy Felix over there, or go to Alabama and visit my buddy Egg. So we'll go up by, Plague. Where are you from?
I'm down in Tennessee.
Oh, okay, Tennessee.
He's the only 10 I ever see.
That's
there we go.
That's where our buddy Bears is from too. So, going to Tennessee or going to Vermont, going up in the sticks to visit Ray and his farm animals.
Bark Mountain, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, you could go to Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's from Australia, but based on what he said, I think it's actually Jurassic Park. They've got some scary shit over there. So I was telling him, like, I don't know if I can come visit you, bro.
I would love to go see Snake in the Bahamas, and he can take me out on his yacht. That'd be glorious.
Yeah. There you go. Take me with you. All right, y'all. Really great podcast. Huge thank you to Ray and Plague again, kind of doing this a little bit short notice. Appreciate you guys. Any last words for the podcast? The floor is yours. Go for it.
Love what you're doing. Appreciate it. And as always, if you need any help, just ask.
Thank you, Ray. Oh, Plague.
Appreciate the invite. I think it's cool what you got going on. I've heard a lot about it. Gonna tune in a little more, and just wish everybody well in life, in the game. Do your thing, and try your best to be happy and have a good time.
Nice. Very well spoken. Thank you guys. Appreciate the kind words. Definitely fun. I really enjoy this King's Corner portion that I've kind of set up here. So definitely means a lot for the kind words. For the guys, thank you everyone for tuning in. Real quick, a few quick shout outs. Lambo, thank you for the $5 super chat. Also Turtle and Jordan, thank you for the super chats. And Ray, my man, thank you for being a member for 3 months. And Pocket, thank you for the subscription. Appreciate y'all. I'm out, guys. For the boys, have a good weekend. Take care. We're out. Peace.